Welcome back to We Live for Saturdays, Season 2. How y'all doing?
Oh, it feels good to be back. Good to be back.
This is what you guys look like?
Yeah, first we were just audio Season 1. Now we've upgraded. We're official. And love to show our faces. Love to have that rapport. You can only go so far on audio.
I tell you, I wish we had video for the Whip Shots Bowl season episode last year. That would have been amazing.
I don't
But
think we'll ever recapture the magic that was the. We need to
yes,
find
we
some more,
will. Yes,
more
we will.
advertisers.
This year. This year.
Well,
I love it.
I'll tell you, I'm quite ready for college football. I know we were talking in the text chat earlier this week that I feel like as the years go by, we're getting more and more excited for college football. I don't know about y'all. So, weather's starting to feel like fall. It's that time of year. We're almost Labor Day, which is the official kickoff as far as like week one, the season. But don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. We did have an off season, good 6 months or so. How was y'all summer and spring over there?
It was beautiful, and you're exactly right. The first chill in the air. I think I woke up. It was 59 degrees. That's the perfect sign of college football. But yeah, pretty boring status quo last 6 months. Just missed you guys. But it's good to be back, boys. Any updates in your neck of the wood there, Chris?
I couldn't agree more. It was 59 degrees here in Raleigh, North Carolina, actually, and you wake up invigorated a few days from college football. All is right in the world. I mean, oh gosh, yes. And like you said, Sam, there's a few things we need to talk about. Big off season, lots of changes. First, it's nice. We're I think known to ourselves for having a bunch of random college apparel. What are y'all wearing? I've got my bows.
You
Let's
got your
go.
bows. They're week zero involvement as well, and
I know.
I don't even know if they have a football team to be honest. But we got Dunk City, Florida Gulf Coast.
Hell
Um,
yeah.
just we have way too much random crap to wear, and it'd be a missed if we didn't share it with y'all.
We're doing the right thing, rolling out a new one every week. I got the Fighting Kenny Dillingham's, only coach born in 1990, Arizona State.
Wow.
Yup, fun fact. Kick it
Is
off right.
is Dillingham? Is that related? Oh no, I was gonna say is that related to the Utah coach? But
Willingham?
that's Whittingham. So never
Whittingham.
Yeah,
mind.
Dilly
close.
dilly. No
No,
free ads.
Well, cool.
I say actually I disagree. I think we should do a ton of free ads. That's how we get our traction this year.
All
All
free
right.
ads.
For
First
example,
shout out.
I'm
First
drinking
shout out.
a Red Bull.
Down East Cider,
There we go.
mango
Dirty
and a
peach.
Blonde,
margarita.
Michigan.
Cheers, boys.
Uh,
Good to college football being
cheers.
back.
Cheers. Here's to a
Week,
great season.
week zero.
well, as you can tell, it's a lot more informal this year. Let's say. So we're gonna take a little bit more of a fun, casual guy approach. We don't need all those numbers. We don't need all the nerdy stuff when it comes to college football because it's college football. So
And that's
we'll
not because we stink. It's just because we like to have fun.
hey, we were
We
probably
know our
positive
stuff.
last year. We did well, but
Yeah, we're just here about having fun, though.
there's way too much fun involved with college football. We'll still cover about 3 to 5 games per week per episode, but like to wrinkle in a couple games. I know last year we did some Thanksgiving snake drafts and did some other games throughout the year. So each episode will have those. We'll take some audience questions, whatever it might be. So excited to sort of add some wrinkles, especially with the video. So looking forward to a
Oh
great
yeah.
year, boys.
Oh, yeah.
Well, in that vein, before we even talk about football or I guess specific games, we'll start off with a new segment called Audience Mailbag. So I posted on our Instagram yesterday or 2 days ago. What's one thing y'all are looking forward to for the college football season? It can be related to football. It doesn't have to be. And we got one question, right, Chris?
Yes, yes. Shout out Steve, and I encourage everybody to just shoot us any kind of questions you want. Like Sam said, just that'll probably spin us off, and it's going to be fun. So shout out Steve. First question. Um, obviously one of the big changes this offseason, there's going to be no more Nick Saban. He is going to be on College Game Day. Um, I have a few thoughts. I think it's going to be great because it's college game day, but I'm also looking forward to seeing him get rather frustrated with Pat McAfee. What are y'all thinking? Is college game day going to be as good as it always been?
That is a hilarious back and forth. Also, shout out Steve, whoever you may be, fought through the throngs of listeners and viewers now to fight
Yes.
through and get his one question. I'm sure you sorted through so many, Sam, so I'm very proud of you. Very interesting question, though. I do appreciate it. And yeah, it's hilarious to not see him on the sideline and do what everybody else. You see Tom Brady doing it in the NFL, switching to media right after a illustrious career, and Saban's no different. He probably got a massive payday and coming on board with ESPN. And yeah, Chris, that's a very good point. I don't know how long he's going to last battling with McAfee on the desk there.
I can just see it now. He's like, all right, you got to do things the right way, all right? And then he just rips his shirt off. McAfee rips his shirt off, just being a clown.
I'm kind of surprised that Nick Saban is like a mainstay on College Game Day. I feel like he would have been much better as like a consistent guy there every week, but not at the desk. Like, that desk is already crowded enough. I think. I think he would have been like a good expert guy to come to, but not necessarily going back and forth with Pat McAfee. So I love Nick Saban. I think he was on the first episode of Hard Knocks. He's sort of getting himself around there, just sharing his knowledge and sharing his love for football. So I think they'll make it work. ESPN is sort of a mess in general, so just add it to the mess.
But we're going to watch.
That's a very good point. Yes,
Yeah.
we will definitely watch.
Of course.
It's game day, of course.
Of course. Well, keep those questions coming. Keep the engagement coming on social. I know we have probably the most engagement on Instagram, but I'll be picking up some TikToks. I know Chris is on that Twitter or X, so we'll keep it going from engagement perspective. But love to get the ball rolling on that question there with College Game Day. And fun fact, College Game Day will be a topic of the week 1 game of the podcast. One of the games that we'll play on the podcast here. So looking forward to it.
Love it.
Awesome. Well, back into football. This is the week 0 episode. It's kind of a disappointing week 0. There's not a lot of games, not a lot of good games. So we're going to kind of blend this episode into week 0 games as well as just a preview for the entire year. We figured the best way to do that is to take it conference by conference, looking at some of the teams that we're high on, maybe some of the teams that we're low on come playoff time. But without further ado, we can kick it off in terms of conference by conference. Now that there's no Power 5 necessarily, it's more of a Power 4, RIP Pac-12. We can kick it off with ACC. Maku, who are you loving on the East Coast here? Well, I guess it's not even in the East Coast anymore, so who cares?
So many thoughts. You're gonna peel away my brain like an onion this year. Just total mess that we've made from this once beautiful country.
Go off.
conferences.
Go off.
I gotta coordinate them all first. But no, obviously the ACC. Just taking it at face value right now, looking at the actual standings, everybody's 0-0 right now. It's hard to look away from Clemson, I'll say. I think they've kind of had almost a subpar last couple years where they're going, like a 9-3, 10-2. Obviously we're familiar with that, trend as well with, if you're not going 12-0 or 11-1 fighting for those playoff spots, it's a down year. So still a lot of good stuff moving forward for them, and I think this is the year they can kind of fight through. FSU was a team last year, obviously the kind of terrible decision making by the playoff committee. They went 12-0, only got left out because they knew their quarterback wasn't going to be around. But a lot of discussion to be had about 8 months ago. So neither here nor there. But I think Clemson takes the top throne back in the ACC from teams like FSU and the like. Also really like the team that are down your way, guys. NC State, something to keep an eye out for.
Wolfpack.
Yeah, I'm excited about the Pac too. Usually they have their defense to ride on. It's going to be a weird year. I think if they have a strong defense, they had a lot of churn with Peyton Wilson going to the draft, some other key players on the defensive side. If they can pick up the defensive side of the ball, that offense is very well improved. Grayson McCall is a proven quarterback. He's been around, it seems, 5 or 6 years, and then they have some talent on the outside. So definitely wouldn't be surprised to see them succeed in the ACC and maybe even push for a playoff spot at the 11 or 12 spot. But sleeper dark horse, I like Virginia Tech this year. They really turned it on the latter half of last year. They had a great bowl game. Brent Pry, I think, his third or fourth season there. I think now he's in it. He has his guys. He has his culture there. They have a lot of experience in the backfield. Very strong defense on their side, and their schedule kind of plays into their favor. They really only play Miami and I think one other team. They kind of play the easier side of the ACC, at least historically. So that's definitely promising. I think that they could at least get to the championship game of the conference, if not end at least in the top 15. So I like Virginia Tech. They're a fun team. I feel like a good team at Lane Stadium is always fun to watch, so I'll be rooting for that.
Yeah. And another thing I want to point out, as I was, last few weeks or months, let's be real, looking at the upcoming season, a big change this year, a lot of these divisions are gone. So all you got, you don't have the raw deal sometimes of getting a really tough matchup. If you can just get in that second spot, you're in the championship game, and then anything can happen. I like, I echo what all y'all are saying. I'm picking Clemson to win the ACC. I agree with you. Florida State, I think, is going to be a little down. So I won't go too much more into Clemson there, but my sleeper is SMU, the Mustangs, and we're going to get into them a little bit with week 0, but, they're a high-powered offense. They're constantly upper 30s, 40s scoring, and just looking at their schedule, that's the one thing that really stood out to me. Obviously, they have a weak non-conference schedule. Nevada, Houston. Oh, sorry, I'm drawing a blank there. BYU, TCU, but then watch us get into the ACC. Florida State, tough game. Louisville, tough game. Then they go Stanford, Duke, Pitt, Boston College, Virginia, and Cal. That is a soft, back half of the schedule. If they can win one of those two games against Louisville and Florida State, Louisville.
Louisville.
Yeah, they've got a really good shot. I want to watch the Mustangs this year.
And those
I do agree also.
You go, McCool.
I think the ACC made some sort of side deal as well when they were accumulating new teams that they were going to dominate week 0 because they got the big game over in Dublin, which obviously we'll get to in a second. But what is it? It's the team FSU playing Georgia Tech, and then also SMU is
Nevada.
playing along with a team they should absolutely destroy, Nevada. So again, get to that in a second. But I think good for the ACC to be first on our radar here in the fresh season.
And I apologize for my brain lapse there. It's Houston Christian was the team. I was looking at their schedule.
Oh,
Houston. I'm like, I wanted to say Houston Catholic. That just sounds like a high school. So yeah,
Houston Christian. Are they the Bobcats, the Wildcats,
Huskies?
Because they are consistent overs in the college basketball landscape. So they are fun to watch on the basketball court.
We all have our first episode jitters. I apologize.
I can't believe Sam already dropped a Houston Baptist basketball line on us right now.
Oh, that might be Houston Baptist.
Christian.
Sorry, Houston Christian.
Whatever.
I think they actually have changed. I don't know. Let's move on from that.
I know that's Cal Baptist, and then there's Houston Christian. So yeah, who knows? But
I do have one quick thought. Speaking of teams down the road, I am about 1 metric mile from Boston College's campus up here in Massachusetts, and I kind of believe in the Eagles this year. I think they can be very much in the running for. I don't really know if they're doing, split the conference up or if it's just top 2 teams, but I think they're going to be feisty. I could see them going like 8-4, maybe even 9-3 with a good year. You know who's their coach? I'll give you guys one guess each.
Matt Narduzzi.
No, I hate that guy, but anyway, no, he's still a Pitt.
Who?
Bill O'Brien. He's back, baby.
Is he really? Wow.
Yep.
Yes.
He was. I don't know if you guys remember because it's like right at the lull of diving into like February or March after football wrapped up. But he was about to sign on to be the OC, I believe, at Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly actually took that job. Who would have thought? A lot of blasts from the past and big names that have resurfaced here. So Bill O'Brien was about to sign with Ohio State and was like, I got a head coach job back in Massachusetts. He was successful with the Pats back in the day. I think he's taking it on, and I think he's going to lead that team to some interesting games. Let's just keep an eye on him. Thomas Castellanos.
I was going
My
to say
guy.
Castellanos is a baller and quarterback. I think they'll win some surprising games, or at least I think they'll cover really well. So should be a fun team up there.
100%.
And nothing ever bad happens when he plays, unlike his counterpart in Philly.
Right.
No relation.
Big 12. Some new teams on the Big 12 side, too. Excited to, I don't know, it's, I guess maybe not even new teams, but teams have left. It's going to be weird seeing the Big 12 without Texas, without Oklahoma, some of the classics. I like Utah. I love the Utes. We already hinted at it with Kyle Whittingham. I love his coaching style, very hard-nosed. I remember Penn State, we played very well against them in the Rose Bowl, but that was against a injured Cam Rising and some other factors in that game. So honestly, within that team, there's a lot of players that played in that game that are still there. So Cam Rising, I love him as a player. He's a classic college football quarterback. I don't see him doing tons in the NFL. I could be
Well, he's been there
wrong,
forever.
please.
I was going to say, it's basically because he's done college twice now. He's going into like his
But-
8th year.
He's an absolute gamer. I think at least getting to the conference championship, they have a top 5 environment out there in Utah. So rooting for the Utes, and so hopefully they have a good year. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going with Utah. I really echo a lot of what you said. They're returning a lot. The Big 12. I do think the Big 12, like 6 teams could win that conference this year. I mean, it is a rather level playing field. There's a few, I would say, sleepers that I've been looking at. I think I would pick Utah as well. I think there's going to be some surprise, whether it's Iowa State, UCF goes one loss in the conference and makes it into that title game, and it could get really interesting. The bounce house at UCF, they closed the season well last year. I think they're going to be fun. Their schedule lines up well, so I think anything goes in the Big 12 this year.
I love the perspective there. I don't know how you didn't mention Kansas, Chris. I thought you were the biggest rock chalk guy that we've seen this side of the Mississippi.
Rock chalk. Well, they don't have Kotelicki anymore. He came to the even
Promised Land.
the better good guys. So I love my Jayhawks. But yeah.
It turns out this whole time you were just feigning your Jayhawk fanhood. You're really an Andy Kotelicki
I was an
fan.
Andy Kotelicki fan. I do think there's going to be an adjustment there. I don't want to go too off the board here, but they're playing UNLV. I think that's a very tough game early on in the season. Obviously that doesn't determine conference record at all, but I don't have the vibes. I'm not feeling it quite as much this year.
That's fair. I respect the honesty. They still have Jalen Daniels, who's incredible on electric. He just needs to stay on the field, obviously. But
Yeah.
could be some noise. I want to give a quick shout out to Big 12 overall as being the conference that I think kind of followed their own mission statement. I feel like Big 12 football, you obviously think of high-powered offenses and some hard-nosed, down and dirty kind of defense when certain teams want to show up. Obviously, you have your Kansas States and Iowa States that like to play, kind of gritty football, and then you have the high-flying teams like Texas Tech and, the other, couple that come to mind, TCU and Baylor. Obviously, they're always throwing up 60 points but giving up 59 sort of thing. So I think the Big 12 accomplished what they set out to do by, kind of replacing their 2 lofty, elitist teams that had to make a move elsewhere, Oklahoma and Texas, obviously. But look who they picked up. It's kind of like a major league team losing a Hall of Famer and going out and getting a bunch of scrappy guys who just put up consistent, 300 seasons. I guess that's not the standard these days, but 275, let's call it. Arizona State, they go hand in hand. Colorado and Utah go hand in hand. It's a well-rounded conference. UCF snuck in there. UCF doesn't really belong. That's kind of a stretch. Not
Or
nearly
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati again, same point as well. They're kind of close to where West Virginia is, and West Virginia kind of paved the path for them. But UCF should have replaced one of the Northern California boys in the ACC. I'll tell you that right now.
That's true.
But my pick as well, Kansas State. Avery Johnson is apparently a phenom coming out of there. He got in a handful of games last year and kind of tore it up. So much so that their existing quarterback, who set a bunch of records at Kansas State, has now moved on to Ohio State to try to assumably win a championship there. Will Howard moved along elsewhere, so I'm cheering on the guys that he left behind. Kansas State, go Wildcats. Also Arizona, the newcomers. I think they got a lot to prove. They got an electric quarterback and wide receiver. Wide receiver. Oh, Boston came up hard there. They got the duo there with Noah Fafita and Tetroya McMillan, who's a 6'5", 220, just speedster.
Can you say that in the Boston accent?
Tetroya McMillan. Shout out that guy. He's incredible. So they should be a very fun team to cheer for. And the last thing is that Arizona was, in my mind, like the team for Pac-12 after dark. You know, the Twitter and social media trend when everybody is staying up late at 11:45 p.m. and trying to get some bets in or get some wins on the board. And I feel like Arizona was always involved. They were either losing or dominating a team they shouldn't be beating. So they're going to cause some chaos in the Big 12 one way or the other.
Yeah, love Noah Fafita. That team is just so fun to play with in College Football 25, and I don't know how we didn't bring up College Football 25. But
I was going to say, that's dictating most of my commentary on everything.
Forget about NIL, transfer portal, all these other changes. That's the highlight of the offseason.
That's the offseason, man. 11 years in the making. We, as a podcast or as the Triumvirate, have a online dynasty going in the Conference USA. So we will keep you updated on how that goes. Who knows? Maybe we'll even stream for y'all at one point. So
imagine.
Love that.
We'll
Nobody wants to see me play as Middle Tennessee State. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, cool. Going into the Big Ten. So I know as Penn Staters here, we're very well versed in the Big Ten. It's probably the conference that I know of the most. However, there are a lot of newcomers into the Big Ten. We have UCLA, we have USC, Washington. I'm sure I'm missing
Oregon.
A couple more. Oregon. So a lot of new wrinkles into the conference here. I think it's like the Big 18 now instead of the Big 10. So there's plenty of teams in this conference to choose from. That team that I'm most excited for, I think will run the table, is Oregon. I think it's up to Oregon and Ohio State, in my opinion. I know we'll talk about Michigan a little later on. I know some people are a little lower on them or a little down on those guys in Ann Arbor. But Dylan Gabriel, I feel like Oregon was a strong team, and for them to get an electric quarterback, I love watching a good lefty quarterback. They're a very fun team. Love the coaching. Love just the culture up there. So I'm running with Oregon on the Big Ten side. What about you, McCoy?
Yeah.
I'll let Chris go. He's got some thoughts.
Oh no. Yeah, I mean, I have I've been leaning Ohio State all off season, but as it gets closer, and plus I have a nice future on Ohio State. I hope that would work out. However, I'm with you, and it all comes down to Oregon hosting Ohio State. I think that does give them a leg up in the season. They brought in a lot of talent. I do think with Lanning at the head coach, he has beefed up the trenches enough to hang with it. Like we said, with a lot of those Pac-12, Big 12 teams, they couldn't hang with the Big 10 teams. Well, I think they have beefed up the trenches enough to hang with the Ohio States, the Michigans, all of that. That's, to be honest, the one thing we have struggled with as Penn State fans, not being able to handle in the trenches. I think that's going to be really something interesting to watch. So I'm with you. It's definitely one of those two teams, in my opinion. I could definitely see that being the championship game, so it should be fun. One other team that I'm not sure about winning the Big Ten, but I think is really going to be exciting is USC. They have lots of opportunities.
Miller Moss.
Miller Moss. And, especially when, thinking about if someone could sneak into the playoff as the, 11 seed or something like that, you're looking for opportunities. And they have, USC has a lot of people on their schedule. LSU, Notre Dame, a lot of the in-conference teams, and those are opportunities. I mean, I don't think it's impossible that if the right chips fall, a 9-3 USC with tons of with two upsets could make it in. 10-2 USC with that resume could get interesting. But yeah, and obviously with Lincoln Riley at quarterback, or he is practically quarterback. Yeah, he's a quarterback savant, a whisperer. I think it could be an interesting year for them.
I agree. It's funny that you have to position USC these days as a plucky underdog and be like, hey,
For
if they can
real.
figure some things out, you never know. But I'm going to say one thing very quickly. The one theme that I'm carrying over to this second season of the illustrious We Live for Saturdays is USC overs. Because I know for a fact they're still not tackling anybody out there in LA. I
They
don't care
got
who you're
Danton
playing.
Lynn now.
Sure. Yeah. Penn State cornerback. Yeah. Way to pay
Defensive
attention.
coordinator.
I love it. I love it. That's the way to do it. I still don't think he's stopping a nosebleed. I think that USC is going to give up 40 points. And hey, if they're going toe to toe with the new conference that they're settling into, and I would be curious, like a USC Iowa kind of game, like what it's like the opposite of a immovable object and an unstoppable force. Iowa's offense versus USC's defense. I don't even know how to describe that, but that should be very fun. But yeah, so good point about USC, Chris. I agree. Obviously, also Oregon and Ohio State are the favorites. Ohio State's littered with 5 stars, and now they just pick up pretty much the all-time Kansas State record holder at quarterback and just insert him to run the whole offense. So I feel bad for Travion Henderson.
Yeah.
That guy has been there. He put up like 1,100, 1,200 yards his freshman year, got like 15 touchdowns or something crazy. And ever since, they're just like, yeah, we're going to split carries with a bunch of other guys, and because we just can't stop recruiting 4- and 5-star beasts. So he should be the guy, but no, they had to go out and get Quinshawn Judkins, who is, speaking of the college football game, apparently absolutely lighting that up to the point where he's basically Bo Jackson in the old Tecmo Bowl games. So obviously those two are the favorites, but keep an eye on, I guess, sleepers. I'd say either Wisconsin or Nebraska, which neither one's really a sexy sleeper pick because they're both big name, national names. But Nebraska's got Dylan Raiola, who's another Caleb Williams or Trevor Lawrence with his 5-star kind of high school hype. And then Wisconsin, I think they're gritty, kind of as you were saying, Chris. It's all about the trenches, and that's what they're well known for. So keep an eye on them, and we'll see what happens.
Last conference here, we got SEC. A lot of new blood in that conference too. Texas, Oklahoma, but I know. Looking at the teams at the top of the board, at least in the SEC, I'll keep mine short and sweet. I like Texas. I think if I were to pick or bet on the two teams in the championship, I think it'd be Georgia, Texas. I know that's very boring, but I think that's very realistic at the top of the board. I think there's a definite line between those two and the rest of the I could be completely surprised. Maybe Alabama picks it up, but I think Texas is my pick there. What about you, Mako?
I'm going to take exactly what you said. Obviously, you can't even spend too much time on Georgia because they're the far and away #1 team in the country. But I do like Texas, even coming to the SEC, where you're expecting them to be kind of, shocked a little bit going from Big 12 of not a lot of, defense against them to the SEC. I think they had the playoff experience last year. They're feeling pretty confident coming off that. Oklahoma, I don't see quite as much. I feel like they may fall flat a little bit. Again, I'm sure they have, some absolute studs on offense, but same sort of thing. I feel like they're not quite up to the SEC speed that I feel like Texas has already, kind of adjusted to a little bit with that playoff experience, albeit as short as it was. My sleeper pick, though, and I don't know if I'm allowed to do this, Sammy, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to say my sleeper is Alabama finishing with non-double-digit wins.
Okay.
I'm going to say they're going to go like 9-3 at best, or maybe
So
even
your hot
8-4.
take. Your hot take.
The hottest take of all. I mean, hey, Nick Saban's playing on college game day now. He's not
Little
walking through
transition
that
here.
door anymore. We'll see how Kalen DeBoer picks things up, but I feel like this time last year people were very unsold on Jalen Milroe, and he probably should have had at least one loss, maybe two more. last season down the stretch. Obviously, we all know the Auburn ending.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if this new guy, obviously a very prestigious coach, got to the championship game last year with Washington, but don't know if he's going to immediately get that Bama magical success. So I'm saying they're going to fall a little bit flat, and people are going to be clamoring for old Saint Nick to come back very quick.
And then I'll keep it quick too. Georgia, obviously, and I'm intrigued about Ole Miss. They are just pulling people in through the portal. Lane Train, I don't think he's getting a sponsorship from Coke anytime soon. If
He's getting a sponsorship from Amtrak with the with the way he's going.
I know, but yeah, look up the video about the Coke. That is not how you get endorsements, but maybe we'll get in a position like him, and we can sort of give lessons on how to get endorsements one day.
That's the goal right there.
Well, awesome. Any group of 5 team quickly that you just love, that you want to just plug out there, that you either love for the sleeper of having a very strong year, either ending ranked or top 15, or just a random team that you want to root for before we move on?
I'll go first here. I think it's not too hot, but Boise State, they have some dogs. They have some really good players. Schedule, there's a few traps in there, but they're going to be solid. I like a few teams out of the American. Memphis will be fun. USF, go Bulls. They just ended the year hot. I think they have a lot of momentum. They have a few opportunities as well. They play Alabama and Miami. So that'll be fun. But, I think Texas State out of the Sun Belt could be fun.
I like those picks a lot. I'm big on USF as well. I think they keep both of those, big name games with Bama and Miami closer than expected. I know we're taking a little bit of a break quickly from the betting lines and everything, but that's one that I'm pretty much going to have to hammer. UCF plus whatever, or USF, sorry. And then very quick, my shout out, some teams to keep an eye on. The forgotten stepchildren of what is the massive conference realignment. The Pac-2, just the saddest sounding.
That's very sad.
Ever. I feel awful. I would hate to be a fan of Washington State and Oregon State because they both have had very solid, respectable seasons. I think they both had like a college game day in the past few years, so they were putting together, good, honest runs and trying their best. And I don't know if it's a lack of effort in the athletic department or anything else, but just didn't really get the train moving as much as they needed to. I look at the Cal and Stanford joining the ACC is the most mind-boggling thing ever, and obviously the conference doesn't really dictate where you need to land. You don't need to be on the Atlantic to be in the ACC, but those are insane road trips that Cal and Stanford are doing. Same with USC and UCLA and Washington, Oregon for the Big Ten. So nothing really makes sense. But the biggest thing is that I think all of America should rally behind those two teams as being like, hey, well, let's get you out of this tough situation. Let's find you a new home, like a parent fostering a puppy and finding a new forever home for them.
Boise gets both of them on the blue turf.
Opportunities for
statements.
Hey, we'll be cheering for them. That's all that matters.
Yep.
It's always sad seeing those Pac-2 teams in college football 25 where you just drop down by conference and it's just 2.
Washington State flag's going to show up to game day and everyone's like, oh, yes, go right up.
All right, well, I know we have week 0 games to cover. There's not a lot. Did want to do a little rapid fire for 2 stats or 2 picks. First one, there's this stat going around ESPN's Twitter. 18 out of the last 20 seasons, there's been a team ranked starting out in the preseason in the top 10 that ended unranked. Miku, who do you think that team's going to be this year?
I mean, you're putting it on a tee for me. I'm just going to double down really quick on the Alabama hot take. I think they're starting, was it 5 right now? That's too high. I mean, obviously, yes, they were on the, or in the playoff last year, of course. Michigan kind of knocked them out there. More on Michigan later, I'm sure. But, and it kind of ended Saban's run and dominance. And honestly, 100% I am, just hinging this all on Nick Saban retiring. So if he was still there, I'd probably not even sniff them, doing anything but making the playoff. But I think the changeover in Tuscaloosa and just whole new crop of players going forward, could very easily go 12-0 and make the playoff and be right back where they started, but they are still my pick to kind of tumble down a little bit with a very tough schedule. They don't have an easy road by any stretch. Obviously, it's the SEC, but I could see them, very much losing quite a few toss-ups there.
We've touched on Florida State, maybe struggling. The other team I want to touch on, Michigan. You want to talk about a tough schedule. Fortunately, all of these games are at home, but their non-conference is rough. Fresno State, very solid. Texas, Arkansas State, I think, is going to be a lot better out of the Sun Belt. USC, and they have Oregon at home, and then, of course, Ohio State. Ohio State is the only one on the road of that. So that's a huge gauntlet to try to, I mean, they have to win 10 games to, I think, to make the playoff there, and that's going to be tough there.
I was going to say, surely the reigning national champion is returning almost as much as possible, right? They got their same quarterback, they got their same head coach still coming back to town, right?
No, they do have a Netflix documentary coming out on their legitimacy, so we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be good.
That's worth at least a win and a half right there.
Mine's Florida State. I think how many schools are going to give DJ Uiagalelei a chance, I think, is my pick there. I think he's a great quarterback, but I don't know how well they do after last year's debacle. Of how their year ended. I think it'll be tough to turn those kids around, in my opinion. If anyone would do that, it could be Mike Norvell, but I think that's just tough to do. So, especially with their schedule, I think Florida State is my bear team instead of being bullish. So, and then the other one here, rapid fire, sleeper team for the playoff. Mine is Virginia Tech, as I mentioned earlier. Think that they could sneak into the 12th spot. What about you, Chris?
I've already touched on both these, Boise and USC. One of them I like.
There you go.
Or both, maybe.
I'm sticking with my Big 12 teams that I mentioned before, Arizona and Iowa State, actually. I think they both play kind of differing terms. Arizona a lot more heavy on the offense. Iowa State just real tough on the defense, but I think they can both pull off some upsets and some big wins on the road. They could either of them get to honest 9-3 or 10-2 in most worlds, and see what happens there. And then shout out USF as well. Like I said, I think they're going to play a lot of teams close.
Go Bulls!
Go Bulls!
Awesome. Well, without further ado, we have Week 0 games. We can run through these kind of quick since most are kind of struggling in terms of quality, but.
Well, you just lost all our Montana State fanhoods there, Sammy. Good job.
Well, the one thing that's been in social media is the Delaware State Hawaii game. We weren't even planning on covering their travel debacle. Has been just.
Who else is planning on covering that? Delaware State.
Boom.
Well, that game is on midnight on Saturday night, technically Sunday morning. So late night, boys. Let's get it going. But the first one that we were planning on touching base on is the game out in Dublin, one of my favorite towns, favorite cities in the world. Florida State versus Georgia Tech. Guinness will be flowing. Everyone will be vibing out there in Dublin. I feel like that's the perfect way to start, at least the past couple of years. I know last year the Notre Dame Northwestern game was there. I feel like that's just sort of where the college football season starts nowadays. So, just quickly here, Haynes King, keep an eye out for the Georgia Tech quarterback. Should be fun to watch this year. Overall, Florida State should do well in this game, but I think a slow start is in order. So under first half is what my pick is. But overall, I'm just looking at this game. Love Ireland, love Dublin, love college football. Rock on. What about you, Chris?
I love it. Yeah, I think, that, like you said, the last few years, wasn't this the game where Northwestern beat Nebraska and that was their only win on the season?
Yep.
I mean, it's just a weird environment. I think Florida State actually has some suspensions in the first half carried over from last year, if I remember correctly. Georgia Tech Yes.
It also shouldn't apply internationally, if you ask me.
That's right.
No one
No
knew.
extradition there. Yeah, Georgia Tech does perform well as an underdog. I like this to, it's not going to be a slop fest, but I do think it's going to be on the lower scoring end. I like the under here.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like starting the season on the under note, of course, but yeah, new country, couple fresh QBs, especially on the Florida State side. DJ is switching around again. I think he'll have good success at Florida State. I just don't see them, dominating right out the gate. I don't see anybody in this game. Depending on what time is it over there in at noon on Saturday, Sammy? Is it like 4 p.m. or something?
Yeah, it'd be like 5 or 6 or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be
Yeah.
a 5 or 6. You should
Well,
know
there you
that here, Boston.
So yeah, the
So
players
give us
will
in
be
my fridge. They'll be done.
players will be a couple of Guinnesses deep already. But I don't think anybody's putting up 35 or 40 points. I'm thinking it'll be like a 24 or 27 to 21 kind of game. So I think that barely stays under the line that we have.
Love it. Well, I'm excited for that game. Next one is SMU and Nevada. We talked about this a little earlier. Projected blowout here. SMU's projected like a 28-point favorite. Looking at the lines, looking what people are talking about this game, I'm looking at Nevada's first quarter team total is .5. They think they're not going to score. I think it's like 6.5 for the first half. They're either that bad or I don't know what's going on there. SMU, I know you mentioned, Chris, they have a top 15 defense last year, or offense last year. They also have a top 15 defense last year. So Sonny Dykes has the Mustangs running down there. So if people are all over the .5 that it's that low, I'm just going to pick a shutout in the first quarter. I feel like they can't score if that's that line. So let's rock on. What about you, Mike?
Agreed. Same sort of thing. I think they're going to dominate the time of possession. I think they're a soundly run team, and honestly, I can't name two players on Nevada, let alone one. So I don't believe in any potential, urge or I guess kind of momentum they would have coming into the season. It's going to be SMU in a landslide. I think the spread and over-under reflects that. Preston Stone, quarterback, coming back after 3,000 yards and I think like 33 total touchdowns or something last year. So he's going to be awesome. I think, he may not even play the second half. They're hopefully going to be up by quite a bit. So I'd say the first half spread, SMU, full game spread. Yeah, Nevada's not going to do much, unfortunately.
Yeah,
They
and
do get the home game, though, so shout out them.
their coach, Rhett Lashley. I mean, this guy, if you wanted to make a coach, young up-and-coming guy in college football, 25, this is who you would make. I think he's going to try to put on a statement. I don't think it's actually the line is. I think I saw it today. It's starting to tick down in Nevada's direction. They've got to rebuild. They're a mess. I think I think the team total for SMU is actually interesting. I mean, I don't think this is going to be that close, and I don't know if it's the top priority for me to watch, honestly.
Sonny Dykes is at TCU. I completely forgot. He's not
I was
at
going to
SMU
say, I
anymore.
was like, there's no chance he's still at SMU. But
I was like,
no.
well, Rhett Lashley's the man. I got to mention him.
I messed that up. So yeah, good call, man.
It's week 0 for all of us, Sammy.
Exactly. Now, Mike, we all get one.
Just
All
one.
right, last one here.
Oh, by the way, fun fact: the mascot of Nevada.
Wolf Space Pack.
Darn
Space
it,
Pack?
you had me. Yes, unlike NC State, there's a space. It's the Wolf Pack. I don't know why.
They have it trademarked. Yeah, my wife.
Mike's just like,
My wife is an NC State alum, and she is all against Nevada because they tried to take Wolfpack, and apparently NC State trademarked Wolfpack as a nickname. They had to do Wolf Space Pack. So,
like, back up.
I got to say, the Martin twins on the basketball court, they were not creative in where they wanted to play whatsoever because they went from NC State to Nevada. So they just wanted to be in a Wolfpack.
They just wanted some space.
Boom, boom.
Thank you.
All right, last one here. Montana State. I know this is a juggernaut on the college football field, maybe at the FCS level, but Montana
They
State
are.
is minus 8.5. Actually, 11.5 now against New Mexico. New Mexico, fun fact is, I have a dynasty with them, one of my 5 or 6. They have a speedster in the backfield called Andrew Henry. 2 first names, can't trust him, but offense is electric. Defense is from the 1700s. They are not electric. So
1700.
Overall, I think Montana State covers here, especially since the line's been moving so far. Do have a fun fact about Montana State after this, but curious on what your thoughts are, Chris.
Yeah, Montana State, very good FCS program. Another fun fact, this is the largest spread in the favor of the FCS team.
Oh, wow.
When they've been on the road ever. So this is 11.5 is wild. I think there's going to be not much defense in this game. New Mexico will not stop their run game. From what I've seen, they have one of the best, if not the best, run games in the FCS. And I think, we talked about Delaware State. The FCS, there's such a disparity. If it's a top-level team and then the bottom level, I think that top-level team, you can see they can hang and beat these teams. So I think it's going to be fun. I think there's actually going to be some fireworks here offensive-wise.
I was just taking a quick minute to find out if Montana State's awesome quarterback, Tommy Mellett, was coming back this year, and bad news for New Mexico, he is. So give away all the points, 11.5. I don't care. Montana State's a power. They've taken over the. I guess North Dakota State's still like the go-to FCS, absolute juggernaut that you got to worry about. So, but a lot of good teams from way up north. The Forgotten States have just been, torturing some of these teams going FCS to FCS.
They live for this. They live for this.
This is their Super Bowl coming down to New Mexico and just gonna beat up on the lowly Lobos.
Yeah, and they're powerhouse on the FCS level. They're also the nice fun fact. Montana, their counterpart in the state, went to the FCS championship last year, and I don't know how they couldn't afford to send their band there, but Montana State, their rival, donated $3,000 for their band to go to wherever the championship was to root on their rival team. So, what do you know? Just thought that was a funny story. So,
and
quick
little tidbit on the Lobos. Head coach, you guys know who their head coach is?
Do not.
Bronco Mendenhall.
Oh.
Hey.
Yeah.
Speaking of, isn't Lobos Spanish for Wolfpack?
Yeah, there's just tons of wolves.
Wolves wild.
Wolves wild. Also, to your fact there, Sammy, with the generous donation from Montana State to Montana, $3,000, and they were flying the entire band somewhere. Like, did they put them on like Spirit Airlines?
I tell you, Delaware State wants that hookup.
Or did they just send like 10 total people? Yes, Montana State. Everybody needs to help out Delaware State. Get the Hornets to Hawaii.
I'm looking
They're still
where
making
the
their
game
way.
was last year. Let's see, Frisco, Texas.
It's always there, I think.
That's a journey. That's a drive.
Yeah, the
They
Rough
probably put 'em on
Riders
a
of
megabus.
minor league baseball.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's week 0. We'll talk to y'all soon about week 1. I know we're excited about a full week of college football. We'll wrap up all of our shows with a mega parlay. I know last year we did our best bets and all of this good stuff. We don't know what we're talking about. We love to just pick what we like about these games. So want to relive the glory days back in college when we did a 10-leg parlay, waiting in a bar line, and it ended up hitting. Thank God for that West Virginia Baylor over, 7 years ago. So what we're going to do to wrap up every episode is basically replicate that. So for this episode, there's not a lot of games, so we will post on socials what 12 teams we think will make the playoff. We're going to parlay all that together. I think Maku's already done his. It's $1 to win 66 grand. So let's just win a salary in one day. How about that? So
I may get weird with it and make it $2, guys. Watch out.
And
I want to retire.
Just so we're clear, each of us are putting our 12 in.
yeah, we're gonna have like a table or a chart on socials. People can follow if they want. It's just $1.
That's right.
And rock on. So keep an eye out for that in the next couple of days. before the season starts.
Love it.
Let's go, boys.
Well, enjoy
We're back, baby.
enjoy the games on week 0, and we'll be back on week 1, and looking forward to a great year.
Hell yeah.